I hope that all of you back on Earth can see what we mean when we say it's a rather foreboding horizon, a rather dark and unappetizing looking place.
Hi folks, I'm Will and this is Planet Under Attack, and today I have a phone interview with Mojo from the YouTube channel Whotookmymojo. Some of you may have seen a video I produced recently where I went through and analyzed 6 of his more compelling UFO and ET videos. This gentleman is producing some of the most fantastic and alarming material that you'll see in publication today. He's been very gracious to allow me his time, and I asked him some very difficult questions concerning his experiences and his work. I really think you're going to enjoy this next 30 minutes, and I start off the interview by asking him how all this started for him, and he takes it from there.
2009, I started to witness bright white flashes in the night sky, and at that time I just became committed to going out, and the activity steadily increased.
Okay, and when did you realize that you were onto something like really special, something that was very unique?
There was a series of flashes directed like right at me, and they just happened in a row, like twice in a row, and I knew that just didn't make sense. It couldn't be a satellite. So from that point on, then I started just, going out and really observing, and picked up these subtle orbs way up, and it just started coming together.
Okay. And when did you spot the first object that was actually on the ground?
Let's see, that would probably be in 2010. I'd have to look. I mean, I have almost 200 videos, and I didn't exactly get the date when I first saw the first ground object. I'd have to look that up.
Did your heart about come out of your chest when you realized there was something on the ground?
Fortunately, anytime I had fear, the entities, for lack of a better term, would back up. So anytime I had fear, things would just slow down and back off. So
wow.
It sort of led me down a path where I got more fearless, I guess you could say.
Okay, well that kind of leads me to my next question here. In the last set of emails we exchanged, the subject of actual communication came up. Can you expand just a little bit on what form this communication actually takes, how it occurs, what types of messages or imagery that you're privy to?
Okay, well, the first time I tried recording the event, I borrowed a Canon camcorder, and I didn't know how to work it so well, so none of the videos showed up. But over that, I'd say about a half-hour footage, I got audio tones, really interesting tones throughout the video. And it sounded like Morse code. I tried to share it with people, and no one could ever decode it. So that was my first sign that maybe they were trying to communicate. And since that time, I got these visual displays that looked really intricate, almost like, what's that, ET, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where they have that light show
right.
movie.
Right.
Very, very similar to that.
Okay. So all of your communication with these entities has been pretty much on a visual level, or did you say that maybe that they were communicating through thought at one point?
Oh yeah. Early on, when they were further up in the sky, the spheres, I would ask them to move in a direction, and it seemed like they would comply.
Really?
Every time, but it made me definitely think that they could understand thought quicker than I could blink my eye.
Really? Wow.
So, yeah.
Well, I know that that you obviously are a witness to some incredible things, and you've told me that you believe that these entities realize that you're there, and they realize that you're actually recording them with a video camera on some level?
I totally believe that. It's definitely my feeling that the ETs know exactly when that camcorder is switched on. In the summer of 2010, I witnessed a sighting similar to the Phoenix lights lit up the sky. And I aimed my camcorder up, and I got the last light illuminating before it went out. And then another time, after packing up my gear and heading home, they illuminated part of the craft, and an ET, was sort of like what they call the insectoid one, the triangle-shaped head with big eyes.
Really?
Other times the display would end as I aimed the cam to start filming. Some displays were discernible with the human eye and are below the lux level to record. It seems like that's on purpose.
Yeah, okay.
And then the energy the beams radiate has been bright enough to film. It hasn't been bright enough to film. So a lot of the displays seem to be just below the ability to catch it on film.
And that's, again, we have communicated through some emails in the past. You've said that there are some things that you've not been able to record. It's not that you didn't have your camera there, it's just that you can't capture them on the actual equipment.
Either that or that they caught me by surprise, like I would be looking in one direction and then the display would happen above me, and so just a lot of times wouldn't catch it in time.
Okay. Now, again, going back to some of our previous communications through email, you told me that you believe you've made physical contact with these beings sometime over the summer. Can you describe exactly what you mean by that, and certainly describe the experience as best you can?
Okay, dogs. Well, first, I told you I was really happy to hear what Dr. Greer on his last video had to say about being touched. I can relate a lot to that. But it has been one of the most exciting things that I did share. I could observe the subtle lights and movements very close, and I was beginning to film parts of the craft that was objects moving inside. And one of the forms, the entities appear as a light being, and they emanate light from themselves. And when they started getting close to me, the light would begin to make my eyes water and get sore, and the energy from the being nearby transferred into my hand and moved down my arm, creating like a greenish aura around my hand. And then it felt like static electricity moving down my arm. It happened about maybe 7 to 10 times over the summer of 2010.
Wow. Now, the first time this happened, Joe, was it like frightening, or was it exhilarating? I mean, what did you feel?
It was exhilarating. I never got, it doesn't seem like fear is something they want to, project. I never felt fearful. Only when the fog rolls in at night and I'm sitting out there all by myself, and it gets a little eerie, and I sometimes cut the time short. When stuff like that is happening, when they're nearby, I don't get the feeling of fear. It's just the opposite. It's very emotional. It seems you're trying to project good emotions over on me. Okay.
Now, you've also told me that you've seen more than one entity, and I know today you told me about the beings that emanate light. You've told me about insectoids, and I believe that you said that you had sensed or witnessed some gray entities as well.
Yeah. One of the first beings that I possibly filmed, was the shorter one, the 3.5 foot with a large head, and it was by accident. I was filming lights, and then I aimed my flashlight, and he took a step in front of the camera, and I have that video, and that was the first one. And another time, I saw the ET would look like eye goggles that illuminated, like night vision goggles over his eyes, about 50 feet away. And the beams that are light, they just have a general shape, like a humanoid shape. I haven't seen any, definition on those beams.
Now, the video I made highlighting what I thought were the most impressive ET videos that you had, one of them was called Wow, and my viewers are going to be real familiar with that. You can see these beings of light, and they do look humanoid, but also I highlighted a woman's face in the video, and I found that extremely interesting. And we did communicate a little bit about that. And I asked you if you thought these might be beings from Pleiades, the Pleiades star system.
Right.
You feel that they are possibly from that area.
Actually, I don't know. Unfortunately, telepathy on my end isn't working. I do have some empathic abilities that help me, but I have not been able to communicate and hear what their answers are. So,
Okay.
unfortunately, I haven't had that opportunity to get the answers like you're asking.
Now, when you were actually taking that video, Joe, did you realize that there was apparently an Earth-like woman visible within that realm of activity?
You know what? This is like the second time it's happened where a viewer has actually emailed me and told me that I captured something special.
Okay.
So a few of the videos, I didn't even know I captured it. It was more just get the phenomenon online and let others look at it. And
Okay.
they make the surprises, share them with me, which is kind of nice.
Oh, I would imagine it definitely blew me away when I saw that video. And the first thing I did was I did some screen captures and took it in and messed with the contrast and sharpness. And it's very clear to me that this is some type of Earth-like female. And it was one of the neatest things I've seen on any of the UFO or ET intelligence videos that I've ever seen, and very jealous, Joe, that you've got that. But yeah.
Well, thanks. Seeing UFOs, she's the one that found the ET stroking the head of the smaller one, and I was blown away when she told me she saw that in the video.
Yeah. Her work is great, and you guys are somewhat associates now, and that's wonderful because you both have great material. But
I hope to. If anybody deserves to come out here, and I've been very private with my location, it would be Allison and another gentleman from Canada as well.
Okay. Well, let's kind of move on just a little bit here, and this is an area that I think you're interested in, and basically, sacred geometry and ancient symbolism. It's getting more and more attention within the realm of UFOs and ET intelligence. And you've indicated to me that this is a topic that just might be relevant to your experiences. Can you explain how or why?
Okay. Well, early on in the sighting, when the spheres were far up in the sky, and we're talking maybe 30 spheres up there. I mean, a lot of spheres, more than I could count. They all seem to move in unison, close. So they would make these moves together, like timed precisely to move together. And then they would stop, and then they would move again, closer. So it almost seemed like they were following a path, a geometric path to get to the location.
So
that was one of the first things. And then geometry, some of the, like the Fibonacci sequence or psi, these angles, they move off into infinity, and it was the only thing that made sense to explain trans-dimensional properties that the beings seem to share.
So you think they're actually communicating or indicating something specific, even in the way that they form and they move through the sky?
Not sure communicating as much as locating themselves, moving to the location they want to be.
Okay.
It just seemed like it took a path that was very precise in terms of geometric arrangements, especially how they would conduct some of the displays, the intricate light displays. They seem to be communicating using angles and different colored lights and orbs. So it just led me to believe one of the explanations was probably using geometry to move into our dimension.
Okay. Just off the top of my head, I'm going to ask a kind of a funny question. Have you ever had one of your sightings interrupted by mysterious helicopters or military aircraft? Have they ever come buzzing by to bust up the party?
One time, and really interesting. There was an object that came through that looked totally different than the other objects. It came through the valley real brazenly, lit up, and unfortunately I didn't videotape it, but it definitely looked different, and I got the feeling that this was possibly one of ours or another type of species interested in knowing what was happening.
So, okay, so it might have actually been a different extraterrestrial species as opposed to American military, is what you're saying.
Either or, was hard to tell.
Did it actually disperse the group that you were watching, or did they ignore it?
I don't recall that, but I do recall that craft, watching that craft come through quiet with lights on through the valley.
Okay.
Other times I did notice the spheres, they seem to be like on a course around the general location, like they were on a flight path to sort of do guard duty around the general location where I am. And in the past I've seen some of those spheres shooting off like to go after something.
Okay. Yeah, it's quite mind-boggling to try to figure out what their intentions are and what their motivations are when we see some of these things, and hopefully we'll know soon, but in the meantime, you're probably the most privy person that I know to what their intentions and their actions might be. I've got a video that we've been watching here, and it was a video you requested that I put on and highlight, the 922 video. And in this video that we're watching here, you've indicated that you don't think that an actual craft is present, or if one is in fact there, it's dropping in and out of phase with our dimension in some way. Can you elaborate on that and explain why you've come to that conclusion?
Yeah, well, a little bit is based on what other people have reported. Dr. Greer, seeing UFOs, how they morph, how they change shape. I had to consider that. And the fact is that throughout the footage that I did put up, very little shows a good percentage of the craft. We're seeing sections, illuminated sections.
Right.
And so I really never got to see a whole picture. Nothing's ever been illuminated 100%. So I'm smart enough to know they can morph and change shape. So it's mimicry. What are they mimicking? And what are we really seeing? I kind of liken their craft to a translucent bubble. And I can pick out where it's located in the sky because of the distortion that it's like a water drop in the sky.
Okay.
So I would see this distortion, and I knew it was in that location where to look.
Okay. Okay. So what's next as far as you're concerned, Mojo? What do you think is the next evolution in your experiences and what these entities and beings are doing in a big picture type of way? What do you think's coming up next for you?
I think they're leading me down a path. I mean, the things they did early on were real easy for me to see. Today, I have to really look for them. Not so many displays anymore, but more subtle things like I really have to work at to understand. I hope trust is being built up. I hope that I will be allowed in to communicate with the beings. That's something that I'd like to see happen.
Yeah.
And try to get some answers that all of us are seeking. I realize that I might be in a situation that's kind of unique, and so who knows? I'm just want to be ready, stay positive, and try to be a good observer and share with the viewers my observations.
Okay. Now, I've asked you before, and this was in the last video I made, have you brought anybody else with you? And you said that you had brought your brother a couple times. Do you keep this separate from your private life and your family life, Mojo?
It's pretty hard to keep separate, when something this huge is happening in your life, so it's kind of flowed over into my personal life. But it seems like I do keep it somewhat compartmentalized. I don't I don't just blab to everybody. And what was the other question?
I kind of lost my train of thought there listening to you. I mean, are there like friends and acquaintances that know that this is of interest to you? Do they know that you're able to capture these incredible images, and do they know to what level you're having this experience, or do they just know you? Do they just know you as a UFO guy?
I see what you're saying. My close friends, I like to show the footage to, because the story is just a story, and without the footage, I think they would think I was one sandwich short of a picnic, and they'd be calling the funny farm on me.
Right.
So it's good to have the evidence, and so that kind of makes them a believer. And not too many express interest to go out, surprisingly. They want to see it. They want, like, immediate gratification, but they don't like to spend the time. Like my brother, he came, and he wanted to see it right off. And waiting out there, sitting out there in the dark for an hour or 2 hours, it doesn't seem to be too much fun for a lot of people.
Right. Right. Yeah, it would. I can see that. Some people are built for it. Some people aren't, and frankly, some people are frankly terrified of the possibility. And it's great that you're sharing this with the world, and bringing this into the mainstream thought process of humanity. And so, what are your thoughts on disclosure happening anytime soon within the United States?
Well, probably like you, I'm real hopeful that it happens, but I don't think so. I just don't see the powers that be. They don't want to let that information out. And if disclosure does happen, it's probably going to take place by the ETs showing us. I don't think it's going to be our world leaders coming out with that information. I think it's going to be someone like you or I out there videotaping, and the entities coming out saying, here we are.
Yeah, yeah, and I kind of feel that way too. It's a very complicated.
We're going to have to force it. We're going to have to force their hand.
Yeah, and there's people out there doing that, and in much higher places than you and I. But it's really important that anybody who has any kind of experience similar to this get out there and let this be known. Have you got any negative feedback from your friends or family on what you're sharing with them?
Not so much. Not so much from my family or friends. It's more the drive-by debunkers on the channel. They'll look at one video, and it's like walking into a movie theater halfway through and trying to figure it out.
Right.
So it would be good if they went and looked at a few videos before they decided. So basically, it's just been the stranger, the odd stranger, the debunker that's created the most waves.
Yeah, the trolls, as we like to call them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I get some comments that frankly are disturbing. You'd be surprised. Well, you wouldn't be surprised, Mojo. You get them too. As we wrap this up, is there anything that you want to share, any point you want to touch on that I haven't already touched on?
I think people can see I don't think I'm special. I try to stay humble in this and try to be a good observer. I think if people are dedicated and they take the time, that they can have contact themselves. I believe there's good and bad out there. So I do caution people, but some people, it doesn't matter. They're going to go for it anyway, and so I think people can find them if they're looking, and you just need to get out and look at the night sky.
Good advice, Mojo. And on that, I think we're going to wrap it up. And I want to thank you so much for your time, and hopefully this is very enlightening to some of the people who have been watching your videos. And I want you to have a good day, sir.
And you too, Will. Thank you so much.
You bet.